Maxwell, I think he has potential to be really accurate with the football. And he's been productive when he's been healthy. Now, he hasn't been healthy, a whole lot, which is an issue. But he's been productive and he's accurate with the football. And he's done it against good people.
Let's talk about Max Smith, Bradley. He was the go-to guy last year, got hurt. Other guys came in and filled in for him. What are the chances he wins that starting spot back?
I think it's a real high. Him and Jalen Whitlow, to me, are probably the two I think they're probably looking at to be the starting quarterback. I think he's probably their best option because he knows the offense. He knows the offense well. He's not a great runner, but he has a pretty good arm. But I think that he's probably going to be their best option. I think, Max Smith, he's a pretty smart guy, so it'd be between him and Jalen to me.
I think this is a classic case of, do you take experience or do you take a guy that can fit into your system, learn the system, may take a little bit longer to learn it, but can grow with you? And I think Maxwell Smith obviously is a little bit older. Yeah. He may be gone, whatever, next year, but I think Maxwell Smith, to me, has the experience, but do you think that outdoes the fact that Jalen Whitlow is so fast, or that Patrick Towles has the youth? Which one do you think? Do you think Maxwell Smith, do you think the experience outweighs that?
Maybe just a little bit, and just because you're in the SEC and it's a tough conference. But also, I think Jalen Whitlow, with his legs, is a little bit more powerful. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about him, but I would have to say, the experience is definitely, you do want that in the SEC. You want somebody who can check down and read the offense and hit the right person. So all right, it's going to be tough.
Well, let's move on to Patrick Towles. Last season, he was supposed to be a redshirt season for him, but when injuries hit other quarterbacks, Towles stepped up and played in 5 games. He completed almost 50% of his passes, over 200 yards, and a touchdown. This season, he's looking to expand those numbers, and Coach Brown likes his physical attributes.
When you talk about Patrick, he's got a strong arm. He's a big kid that runs better than most people think, and he's got a big-time arm talent.
Patrick Towles, to me, by far has the physicality. If you just look at him, he looks like a professional. He does. He's huge. He's strong. He looks like he has a good base. Do you think that his performances last year are any indication of where he is at this year? Or do you think he's a lot further ahead?
Well, I think he has physically changed his body, as we've seen today. He looks like he's gained probably 10 or 15 pounds of muscle, and he has a really strong arm. I just think that he has to work on his footwork just a little bit better, because a lot of times you're going to have to scramble in the SEC and you're going to throw out the run. So I think that's something he's probably going to have to work on a little bit better, because when we see him in the pocket, he can throw the ball. I mean, he's got a strong arm. So, Towles, and what I like about Towles, he plays with a little bit of chip on his shoulder. I think he knows that he's kind of like probably going to be that third quarterback. So he's playing hey, I'm trying to take your spot. So I do like his competitiveness.
The way I look at Patrick Towles, just from talking to him today, is he wants to win this spot, and I think he's doing everything he can. He openly admits that the spring game was not his best game. He thought he didn't do very well, but he said he's trying to right that. And I think that if you give him a chance, because he's so young, he could fill in that spot. And especially if someone goes down, any injuries, I think Patrick Towles could be a guy, if he doesn't start, that could come in, pick right up where they left off and move on. Who would you, out of these two, if you talk about Patrick Towles and Maxwell Smith, both similar types of guys, which one do you think? Do you take the experience or the youth?
It's hard to say, because you do want to see if he can develop to be that quarterback you're looking for in the future, to where, Max Smith has already kind of had his shot. So it's a little tough. I would like to see Patrick Towles. I'm a Kentucky guy, so I like to see a hometown kid get in there. He's from Northern Kentucky, So hey, I would like to maybe see him get that position and see what he can do with it, and he could maybe develop to be a pretty good quarterback.
All right, well, then next up is Jalen Whitlow. Last season, he started 7 games when Max Smith went down with the ankle injury, and while his regular season numbers weren't flashy, he shined during the spring game. Whitlow completed 17 of 28 passes for 193 yards and had 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for 49 yards and another touchdown. And earlier today, at Media Day, Coach Brown sounded impressed with how far Whitlow progressed in just 1 season.
Talk about Jalen, he's a playmaker. One of the better athletes we have on our football team, and he makes plays. And another thing I like about Jalen is he got thrown to the fire, and he didn't shun away. And even though the end results didn't show it, he got better as it went on last year.
Jalen Whitlow might not be the passer that some of these other guys are, but he has the legs. He can run and he can hurt you on the ground. Do you think that plays a huge factor in the air raid offense? I know it's called the air raid, but do you think running on the ground can help that?
Yeah, I think, especially this year, they're not going to have an air raid offense. They're pretty much going to have to run it a lot because they don't have really great receivers. So I think Jalen Whitlow is huge for this year because he has those legs to where there's not going to be any receivers down there. He can run, and he's pretty athletic. Out of all three quarterbacks, he's the most athletic. Well, actually, all four of them, he's the most athletic guy. And I think Coach Neil Brown said, he progressed. He got better each game.
Well, let's talk about that. So Neil Brown seemed most impressed with Jalen Whitlow. Are you going to read into that and say that he's obviously the front runner moving into these practices coming up?
I would say yes, because he sees him every day. He sees him what he does in his reps, and see how he competes against the other guys. So, for your offensive coordinator to talk highly about you, that means you probably do have a little upper hand. Now, he's not going to badmouth any of his quarterbacks, but at the same time, when he actually gives a praise to a guy and say, hey, he's gotten better, then, I would probably lean more towards seeing him in the starting position.
Now, finally, we've got freshman Reese Phillips. The 6'2" quarterback from Tennessee graduated early and enrolled at UK last January. He showed impressive accuracy and was fearless at the spring game.
And then Reese has no fear. Reese Phillips, he went out and, by far the biggest crowd he's ever had to perform in front of in the spring game and performed admirably.
Okay, other than the fact that he wears number 12, my old number, which is cool, by the way, makes him my favorite. Out of these four guys, you got a freshman, you got an experienced guy, you got two guys that filled in for him last year, Max Smith. Who do you think is the clear front runner?
I would probably say I'm gonna say Jalen Whitlow. I'm gonna stick with Jalen Whitlow because I think, like you said, from last year, what he progressed and he kind of carried the team a little bit and got him some points. They were not really wins, but he got him some points on the board, gave him some chances down the goal line because he can run the ball. So I think Jalen's probably going to be their best option. Now, whether they go with him or not, I don't know. But I would go with Jalen.
I agree. After hearing Neil Brown today, I would say that he is clearly the front runner. It's his spot to lose. That's what I would say.